Hello, everyone, and welcome to Soul Stained Ink. My name is Beth, and as I've been convalescing, trying to get better after my surgery, I've been watching a lot of BookTube videos, as I want to do, and I discovered a trend starting that has people showing like 10 books that kind of describe who they are, that helped build them in their personality. My issue is I don't have 10 books, I have like 17. But let's just get into it. Although I have these in no particular order because I just went around and grabbed them off my shelves. Um, I am going to start off with one that I am obsessed with, like collecting different copies of. And if you've been around for a while, you probably already know that that is Pride and Prejudice. Now, this is the edition from the Lizzie Bennet Diaries, which is a great YouTube series. If you haven't watched it and you like Pride and Prejudice, I very much think that you should go check it out. But I actually have multiple copies. I have an edition that was my great grandmother's and is from the like 1890s, early 1900s. I have the word cloud editions. I have Pride and Prejudice and Kitties. So yeah, I love this book so much. I read this for the first time when I was 9 years old. My aunt sent me a copy for my birthday, and I connected with Elizabeth, of course. And ever since then, I've reread it at least once a year. It gave me Jane Austen. I've read all of her books, and Northanger Abbey is my close second favorite. The sass, the societal discussions that are within these are just absolutely timeless and glorious, and I love them so, so much. And since we're talking about books that kind of showcase who we are and have helped shaped us in some way, I think that Jane Austen gave me the permission at that young age to be a little sassy, snarky, and sarcastic, and just be myself. Next, I have The Hound of the Baskervilles by Arthur Conan Doyle. Really, it is all of the Sherlock Holmes series. And Doyle himself is such a character. Researching him is a blast. I cannot remember the first time I actually read Sherlock Holmes, but he has been a part of my life through like Scooby Doo and Alvin and the Chipmunks and things like that, for my entire life. And I am not a completely logical, analytical thinker, as you well know if you've been here for a while. But for some reason, I am just drawn to him and Watson in the stories. I love reading and rereading them and seeing the things that I can pick up on through those. And they helped me to look at things in a little bit different way. Now, the next book is not the first in the series. I could not find my first in the series because I am still rearranging my bookshelves. This one is Wizards at War by Diane Duane. But the first book is So You Want to Be a Wizard. I think I read it for the first time when I was in like seventh grade. Um, and it, I absolutely adore it. Um, it is very similar to Madeline L'Engle and Diane Wynne Jones, kind of a mixture of those things. But it shows that it's okay to be who you are, to be different, to like different things, and to, it helps you be a good person. I don't know. It just helps shape me. If you haven't read these, read them. Next, I've got Nora Roberts. This is The Key of Light, which is the first in the Key trilogy. I've been reading Nora Roberts since I was probably young high school, I want to say. I just, the way she spins phrases and does magical realism and things of that nature, I absolutely adore her books. They're easy to read and they have very strong female characters. And again, gives you permission to be who you are and, to fight for what you want, even if people think, oh, it's too early for you to know, or, oh, you're never going to be able to pull that off or do the thing. It gives you permission to go with your gut and fight for that. Next, I have Anne of Green Gables by L.M. Montgomery. I've read the entire series at some point, but I always come back to Anne of Green Gables and Anne of Avonlea. Goodness, that's a lot of A's. I absolutely adore this series. I read it, Anne of Green Gables, for the first time when I was probably 7 or 8, and I remember sitting in the giant children's section in the library in College Station, Texas, sitting on the floor, and it was a big hardcover, and it was one of those that was annotated. So as I was kind of flipping through deciding if I wanted to read it, I was looking at the annotations on the side, and one of the things that made me want to read it is that she quotes Tennyson to this day. The Lady of Shalott is my favorite poem of all time, and it comes from Anne of Green Gables. And again, Anne's just unapologetically who she is, and I don't know, she's a bright spot, and she helped me realize I could be who I wanted to be. All of these books kind of have a theme, I think. Next is a more recent read. I read it in the spring of this year. That is Tristan Strong Punches a Hole in the Sky by Kwame Mbalia. This book represents my belief that middle grade stories are not only important, but should be more prevalent, and we need own voices writing own stories. This is it really helped me kind of realize I wanted to go ahead and do my PhD, because we're reading this book and we were doing all these things with it, but nobody really knew what a middle grade was. They tried to categorize it as a young adult book, which this trilogy is upper middle grade for sure. And so we had a lot of discussions on what the difference is. And it just really helped me realize that I wanted and more needed to go ahead, get my PhD, and make my research and dissertation about the importance of middle grade literature and why we need to be focusing on those children at that time in their life and giving them literature that will help them instead of handing them like a young adult book that's not quite where they're at the time. But speaking of children's literature, another thing that shaped me was the Babysitter's Club. If you were a kid, probably more if you were a girl, but I know a lot of guys who read these two kind of in secret. But if you were a kid in the late 80s and the 90s, these came out like one a month. And I remember again sitting in the book aisle at Walmart this time, just starting to read the next book. They were like $3.97, um, like $4.50 or $5 if you got the super specials. Um, and these just they showed me what friendship was. They helped me kind of learn how to compromise and do all of those things. But they were also just a fun read that kind of really kept me in the reading spirit. Um, Another one that was a fun read that kept me in the reading spirit and really got me into mysteries. It helped me form my analytical brain that picks up on clues and things like that is the Trixie Belton series. This kind of represents all of the mystery series: Trixie Belton, Nancy Drew, the Hardy Boys, and as I've gotten older, kind of cozy mysteries. Um, these are great. I love them, and they just are fun reads, show great friendship, again, compromise, using your brain, all of those things. I absolutely adored reading them as a kid, and now as an almost 39-year-old, they're still among some of my favorites. Speaking of favorites, J.R.R. Tolkien, this is The Hobbit, but the entire Hobbit, Lord of the Rings, The Silmarillion, all of those things, the world he created. And he and his friends, the Inklings, they have formed a lot of my personality. I use a lot of quotes. I very much connect to being a hobbit. But along with that, just what they went through and them still having a writing group and being together, researching them has been a lot of fun for me as well. And this is another one that I read for the first time when I was in like third grade. And this book, Anne of Green Gables, and I think third grade may have been the first time I read a Sherlock Holmes book as well, because I took the AR test over those and ended up with like 150 points in the first month and a half of school. And my teacher was like, no more. You don't have to take any more AR tests. You're good all year. You got 100. Thank you. Um, but this one is another one where I read it early. I keep rereading it. I actually love the Peter Jackson movies, although there are things I would change. I watched the first in the Hobbit trilogy yesterday as I was laying there crocheting. Um, and they are absolutely wonderful and glorious. I don't know, I just connect to them in so many ways. They really did shape not only my childhood, but also these are a set that I was rereading The Hobbit with my 11-year-old, and it was one of the things where I just went, I really do need to continue my education, get my PhD, and make sure people understand the importance of books like this that are not only timeless, but are things that middle grade students need in their lives as they go through a lot of changes. These books really kind of mirror that in a lot of ways. And they're not just for middle grade young adults, like they are definitely good adult reads as well. But anyway, this video is getting very long and I still have like half the books to talk about. So let's move on. This one is Gothic Fiction, the Cambridge Companion to Gothic Fiction, edited by Gerald E. Hogel. This is just kind of representing all Gothic fiction. I am very much, if you can't tell, I'm very much a Gothic cottagecore aesthetic individual, and that is in my soul. I love Gothic literature, and that is something not a lot of people enjoy. I got to spend the first 6 weeks of school teaching my sophomores about Gothic literature and not only why it's important, but the connections with society and how it's changing now. And it was a lot of fun, and it's definitely a big part of my personality. If you know me in real life, you can probably go ahead and just comment down below and be like, oh, yeah, this girl is crazy. All right, next I have a Kelly Armstrong book, and this might surprise some of you, but her series, the Women of the Otherworld series, was one of the first kind of adult paranormal romance thriller situations that I read, and it has stuck with me. The first book in that series is Bitten, and they made a show from Bitten. I just love it. I love the characters. She's created an entire world full of these paranormal creatures that are interacting and they're full characters, and it's just absolutely fabulous. I want to reread them. I had the entire series, and Spellbound's the only book I have now because I loaned the series to my aunt and she went on vacation, and when she came back from vacation, she opened up the suitcase to get the series out for me, and I don't know, my cousin borrowed them or something, and that was a decade ago, and I've never gotten them back. So I really need to get more copies of the series. But again, it's one of those that's very much be who you are, be different, be weird, control yourself. Like it talks a lot about control and interacting with other people. And I think that it was super important to me, not just in my late 20s as I was kind of learning really who I was after getting out of a lot of different situations, but also the idea of it in the stories as I was learning that I, have, I guess they call it level 1 autism or something now, but I have Asperger's. And so reading a book where these characters have to kind of mask themselves in the human world and figure out how to interact with people. That's been my whole life without even knowing I had the tism. And so now it's even more important. Next, I have Ink and Bone, The Great Library. More Rachel Kane. Now, her real name was Rebecca, and she passed away from cancer a couple of years ago. I emailed her at some point years and years ago, and she ended up being a sort of mentor to me in my writing. She was a librarian in Fort Worth, and these books are gorgeous. The way she turns a phrase, this is a steampunk. If the Great Library of Alexandria had not burned down, it's like a steampunk telling about that. They're absolutely gorgeous, glorious, wonderful, but more, she was a beautiful, amazing person. And she really helped me kind of hone in on where I wanted to go with my writing, the things that were important to me. Um, and I got to be an ARC reader for books 2 and 3 in the series because I had the courage to email her one day and just tell her how amazing I thought she was. She wrote the Morganville Vampire series as well, and I actually emailed her about those. And then she sent me a copy of Ink and Bone because it had just come out. And then it went from there, and I will never ever forget her. She's an absolutely glorious person, and her writing is beyond compare. Next, I have Jack Carr, The Devil's Hand. I have this in here for multiple reasons. This is the love of my life's favorite series. It starts out with I don't even remember what the name of the first book is. The Terminal List, I think, is the first book. And this is political thriller, which is something I don't ever read. I'm not a big politics person. It's a military political thriller, and Jack Carr does a lot of like outreach and work with the military, as well as writing these things and doing articles, and it's just absolutely amazing. And it opened me up to a world of books that I had not been open to before. And it's also something that was a wonderful connection between he and I. Next, I have Carlos Ruiz Zafón's The City of Mist. This is short stories from the world of the Shadow of the Wind. Again, this is a gorgeous series, just the way he turns a phrase. I absolutely adore Zafón. He is my favorite adult writer. He passed away from cancer a couple of years ago as well, so we will sadly not be getting any more books from him. But I revisit his books all the time, just the way he turns a phrase, the way he talks about things, really has just taken root inside of me. If you haven't read his work, I highly suggest you do. I have 3 more books. I will go very quickly. This is Behind the Mask by Louisa May Alcott. This is some thriller stories that she wrote and published under pseudonyms. A lot of people will say like, oh, I read Little Women and it really shaped who I am. And I love the story of Little Women. The whole series, Little Women, Little Men, Joe's Boys. I love it. But it always felt very soft, and I didn't feel like that was all of it. And while I do love it, it kind of resonated, but not like super resonated. Do you get what I'm saying? Behind the Mask, A Long and Fatal Love Chase, those really made me go, there she is. There she is. And they are fairly gothic, so it connects back to the gothic literature thing. That's just really who I am. So my favorite Louisa May Alcott's are those books, and I had the joy of being in a class where we got to study those in my undergrad, so that was fun. And then Outlander by Diana Gabaldon or Gabaldon. This whole series, again, I love the way she turns a phrase. I love the way she does things. Some scenes are problematic. I don't even care. Love it. I need to watch the series. I never have. I watched like the first season, I think, and never went back to it. And then finally, The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. Absolutely gorgeous, soft, magical, beautiful. I think what we're getting from all of these books is that they either taught you to be independent and unapologetically who you are, helped you with friendship and learning how to act, around the peoples, or the way they were written just touched something deep within my soul. But those are the books that kind of formed who I am or can inform you about who I am. And I think this may be the longest video I have ever recorded. So there you have it. If you stuck around this far, I really appreciate it. I hope that you guys have an amazing day, and I will talk to you again soon. Until then, stay safe out there.